Welcome to our daily Forex market analysis, and this is for trading on July 30th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, so as usual, we will get started with our Forex factory here, our calendar. So today, not a whole lot of data, but we had Brexit stuff that came out. So there were comments out of UK, essentially, that dropped the market. So we heard the new Prime Minister Johnson say that it is there so that they're going to start preparing for a no-deal Brexit, that he actually criticized EU for playing hardball, so being stubborn. And as a result of that, we saw British pound drop quite a bit. So across the board, across all different currencies, British pound has dropped. So overall, because of those comments, it was actually negative for British pound. But other than that, not a ton of stuff going on in the market. Coming up, though, we do have Bank of Japan monetary policy statement. So Bank of Japan has been dovish. So they've been making comments about easing monetary policy and supporting the economy, and they have expressed concerns about trade wars, and they have expressed concerns about the strength in Japanese yen. However, they have not actually taken any steps towards easing the monetary policy. So coming up here, if the statement is dovish, so if we see that the Bank of Japan statement is dovish here, so they express concern about the economy and the state of things, that could drive Japanese yen down, and we could see the Japanese yen crosses basically go up as a result as Japanese yen weakens. However, if they do not take any policy action, if they just keep repeating what they have said before without really taking actual concrete steps towards easing the monetary policy, that could actually make Japanese yen stronger, and we could see yen crosses drop. So right now, with all the different central banks being in the mix here, things can get a little tricky. So I would suggest being careful with that. And then we have the press conference here early into our London session. So in terms of the news here, we do have German preliminary CPI numbers. And then in the New York session, we have a core PC price index, which is important, as well as consumer confidence numbers here. So this week, we have a ton of US dollar data, but we also have the FOMC, we have non-farm payrolls. So expect US dollar to be volatile this week. So just keep that in mind. We are likely to see it go back and forth a bit. And in the evening Asian session tomorrow, we have manufacturing PMI numbers for China, which will have an impact on Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. And then we have business confidence number here in New Zealand that if it's below the previous one here, we could see New Zealand dollar drop. And then we have CPI, which is the inflation number for Australia. Now, Reserve Bank of Australia has been dovish. They've been cutting interest rates, both Reserve Bank of New Zealand as well as Reserve Bank of Australia. So if we see the numbers coming out negative, that just basically gives them more reason to actually cut rates. So we could see that a negative sentiment could get created for Australia if we see the inflation numbers come, or if inflation numbers are below expectations. So keep that in mind. All right, so let's go on to our charts now. We'll start as usual with euro dollar here. Euro dollar has been trading in a range for the last few days here. So today we had a bullish candle close here, but this is a range bound move. So I'm going to treat this as neutral to bullish here. So what I'm looking for here is if the price stays below 1.1150, I would expect it to come back down into the range. On the other hand, though, should the price go through this 1150 level, then I'm looking for price to go higher, potentially even into, let me just move this higher here, all the way into 1.1200. So this level here, 1.1150, it is the critical level. So I'm going to say neutral for euro dollar here. As long as price stays below 1150, I will look for a drop. If the price gets to the other side here, then I will turn bullish, and I'd be looking for 1.1200. Pound here, pound got absolutely butchered today because of the Brexit related comments. Now, we have seen a huge drop here, which I was looking for on the weekly basis, but we kind of got it all in one day here. And that can be a little concerning because now that was a very sentiment driven move. Nothing's really happened yet, but overall from Brexit point of view, this is very negative because because this is the first sign we have had that, or not the first sign, but after the new prime minister has been put in place here, that how the things will be. So this is a first sign, and it's not a good sign because everybody was expecting to avoid a no deal Brexit. If we now are starting to talk about it, that means this is serious, and hence a big drop in British pound. But what can happen is when we have these huge drops, price could actually fill this inefficiency and go back up. So that's something to keep in mind. So things could reverse. So watch out for that. However, biases to the downside here, overall bias is still to the downside for a pound. We could get a pullback into 1.2300, so 1.2300, and then a further move to the downside. Biases to the downside, and target is 1.2120. So bearish bias here, but because of the big move, I would be cautious with this one as well. But overall bias is bearish. Aussie dollar here, not much of a move today. Overall, still looking bearish here. We are holding below this previous support resistance level at 0.6920, which is a good sign because as long as price stays below this level, I would look for a drop here. So bias is bearish. Today's candle close is neutral, but overall bias is bearish. So my bias is more to the downside here. We could get a pullback into 0.6920, which we did today. And as long as it stays below here, I will look for a further drop. Next target is 0.6840. So bias is bearish here for Aussie dollar. New Zealand dollar, we have an indecision candle here as well. But as we can see, price has held below this 0.6650 level. So for as long as price stays below this level again, then bias will be to the downside because overall bias here is bearish. So I would look, we could get a pullback into 0.6650. And if it stays below, then I'm looking for price to drop. So bias is bearish here. First target is the bottom of this candle here. So let me just bring this back. So 0.6600. So 0.6600 first target, 0.6565 is the second target. So bearish bias for New Zealand dollar. Dollar CAD here. This one has also been trading in this range here. Today's candle is an indecision candle, didn't really do a whole lot. So with dollar CAD, what I would look for is a retest of this support resistance level at 1.3140. If it holds above, then I'm looking for price to go higher. First target would be 1.32, and then second target 1.3220. So bias here is overall is bullish. Today's bias is neutral. So I will look for this type of a move. And if it doesn't hold above this level, 1.315 or 40, then we could go back into this range. So that's something we have to be cautious about. For now, it is neutral bias, and as long as it stays above a 1.3140, I will look for a move to the upside. Silver here, silver hasn't really done anything. We are still range bound here. So right now I'm looking for price to stay in the range. We could get a further move up into 16.50. And if it stays below 16.50, I would look for price to drop towards 16.15. So for now, kind of range bound here. So neutral bias for silver. Gold here hasn't really done a whole lot. This one is also trading in a range. It's kind of holding below this 1430 level. As long as it stays below 1430 here, I will look for price to drop. So this is the range. It's been trading in a very tight range here. So if it stays below 1430, I would look for it to drop towards, well, first target will be 1410, and then second target would be 1400. But if it goes through this 1430 level, then essentially we're looking at the high at 1450. For now, this is looking sideways, range bound at the moment. Oil here, oil has gone up today. This one is also trading in a range. Now, today's candle close is bullish, so I will look for price to go into this immediate high at 57.65. And if it stays below this level, then again, we're looking for price to come back down. So for now, though, it looks like price, a lot of these different pairs, a lot of these pairs are trading in a range. So we need to see where price wants to go, where the momentum takes us before we actually really, put substantial amount of position size on here. So just be careful. So for now, bias is bullish. First target is 57.65. If it goes through that, then I'm looking at 58.80. But this is a range, so it could just get stuck in this range if it doesn't go through 57.65. Okay, copper here, this is looking bullish. We are into resistance, but looking bullish here. So bias is bullish. Next target is 2.70. And if it goes through that, then I'm looking at 2.72. So bullish bias here for copper. Bitcoin did not do anything. We are into this 90.45, which is where price had pushed higher from. So we're back here. We have an indecision candle here. Price opened and closed at exactly the same point. So this one is neutral. It could go in any direction. So with this one here, if it holds above 90.50, I will look for it to go higher. But overall here, it has been pushing lower. So this is looking bearish here. And if it breaks through here, then I would look for price to go into this 84.60 level. Okay, S&P here, not a big move. Prices right into the high here, holding that position, hasn't broken it. Today's candle is indecision candle, but this one is also forming this triangle here, and it could break to the upside. So if it breaks to the upside, I would look for price to continue higher. But we are at all-time highs, so we just have to be careful with this one. So overall, though, bias is bullish, is pushing into the into our resistance, and if it breaks through, we can go all the way into 30.80. but the candle close today is neutral. We have a very, very small candle close here. And that shows us that it can move in either direction here. So neutral bias for S&P 500, overall bullish though. Next target is 3080. Nasdaq here. Nasdaq is interesting. It's also pushing into the high here, but we have seen that price hit the high 4 times. Last 4 days, it went right into this 80-20 level, but could not break it. So that makes it interesting. If it hits the high once again and doesn't break it, I would look for it to drop. However, we are holding right into this high though, and we could see price break out. And should it break out, we are looking for price to go higher. It is into all-time highs. So we have to be careful here, especially with FOMC coming out, because that will make a big difference to our Wall Street here, to our equities markets. So I will be careful with this one. As long as it stays below 80-20, I'm looking for it to drop into 78. So first target would be 78.90, and then we're looking at 78. So for now, I would say slightly bearish bias, but I'd be careful. DAX here, this one is looking bearish. And the reason I say that is because it is holding below this level here at 12,460 level. And as long as it stays below this level, I will look for it to come back down. So we had a drop, a pullback, and a drop. That's what I would look for. And target would be 12,200. So bearish bias here for DAX. FTSE here, this is huge. It went up all the way. With the British pound dropping, this of course went up. So bias is bullish here. I will look for a pullback into 76.20, and then looking at a further move higher here. 77.20 is the first target, and then should it go through there, we are essentially looking at 77.80 level. So bullish bias here for FTSE. Okay, so the question about an inefficiency. So I think we need to tackle this inefficient move on its own separately. I think there are some nuances that we need to take a look at. So it may not be as easy to explain it right here. So maybe I can do a little video on this. Any other questions? Okay, so no other questions. We'll call it a wrap. Have a wonderful evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye for now.